Hello, everyone. Can I start now? Can you hear clearly? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the UIA ACT Work Program's first expert talk. ACT is ACT and it represents architecture, cities, and territories. And I'm Corinne Chan. I'm council member of the Hong Kong Institute of Architects and also co-director with Corinne from Colombia for this UIA ACT work program. In our work program, we have architects from the world, really from the 5 continents, and we are here to explore together how we can design better, healthier, more sustainable, and more inclusive cities while we are now facing unprecedented global challenges such as global warming, climate change, pandemics, territory conflicts, urban and rural segregation. This series of expert talk is to invite the leading minds of the world to share with us their valuable knowledge and also insights along this line of investigation. And today is our first expert talk. It is our great honor to have Professor Saverio Mecca from Italy to share with us his expert knowledge. The topic of his talk is proximity, well-being in the city of the future. Before I invite Professor to the stage, let me share with you the flow of today's talk. First, we will have architect Corinne Rivera, co-director of the ACT program, to share with us about what ACT program is. Then we will introduce our expert speaker and invite Professor to give us his talk. And after Professor's talk, we will have a panel discussion with 3 of our ACT architects. They are architect Mustafa Kamal from Malaysia, architect Desponia Saraka from Greece, and also architect Shujal Khan from Bangladesh. And after this panel discussion and exchange, there will be a Q&A session. And at that time, please type in your questions through the chat box. Because tonight is important that we will have an exchange and we'll have discussion. So now, may I take this time to invite Corinne, the co-director of the ACT program, to share with us what our program is, our mission, and our action. Corinne, please.
Thank you. Hi, Corinne. Hi, everybody. Esteemed colleagues, I'm delighted to stand before you today as we embark on a journey to explore the intersection of architecture, cities, and territories. What's our mission? Is to foster better architectural practice and thus societies within the rich realm of interconnected urban and rural landscapes. In our rapidly evolving world, cities and rural areas are no longer isolated entities. They are threads woven together in a complex fabric. But now, pollution, clouds on skies, migration reshapes our demographics, inequality fractures our communities and our cities, and housing shortages are worsening. And we need to add to this mix the urgency of the climate change, thus the urgency of climate action. But we as architects are at the forefront of transformation. As you know, every day we engage directly with the physical platforms that shape our lives. We are the facilitators of viable communities every time. And so, what are our proposals? We want to reflect on actionable ways to create a better society one that thrives in best cities, best rural areas, and territories. To achieve our goals, collaboration is our secret. Within the UIA ACT or ACT community or work program, we are forging alliances with fellow architects, urban planners, and key external stakeholders like today. Together, we construct proposals, develop an urban think tank knowledge base, and engage with local, regional, and multilateral organizations, for instance, like UCLG and C40. Our collective efforts ripple outward, shaping well-planned, well-designed cities that stand the test of time. And what are we doing next year's, what's the focus? As a work program, we are setting out sights on three critical themes. The first one is healthier cities, meaning how we can design urban environments that prioritize well-being, from green spaces and urban-rural continuum to mental health initiatives. We'll explore holistic approaches from our architectural practice. The second theme is regenerative and resilient cities, where we'll examine into proximity, like today, regenerative practices, circular economies, and adaptive strategies that ensure our urban centers to thrive sustainably. And the last one is future-proof cities, where we'll discuss smart cities, complete cities, that's a new concept that we are trying to foster, digital infrastructure, and innovations that make our cities resilient in the face of uncertainty. And today, right here, right now, we kick off our expert talk sessions. Renowned architects will share their wisdom on complete cities, global climate maps, and regenerative urban paradigms to start with, as Corinne said. So stay tuned, engage, and let's shape a better built environment together. Thank you for being part of this transformative journey. Thanks. Now we are presenting our main speaker, that is Professor Saverio Mecca. Hi, Saverio, how are you?
Present by myself, or I think that Patricia De Stefano can attend this session.
Could you present yourself,
please? As a WhatsApp message saying that for her it's really impossible to join us. She's following, I think, by YouTube, but she can't join.
Could you tell us about yourself, about your career?
Yeah. I'm an architect. I got the Master of Architecture in Florence many years ago. And then very soon I started the academic career, and I was a researcher for 10 years in Florence. Then I became associate professor in Cosenza, University of Calabria, and then University of Pisa, teaching at the Faculty of Engineering. Because my discipline is close also to engineering. I was teaching organization of building sites, project management, but since many years ago, I started to work on traditional architectural knowledge, working in several countries of the Mediterranean region, working on traditional architecture, vernacular architecture, specifically earthen architecture, which is for me really interesting, not only for better knowing how our entryware building, but also as a material for the future of our buildings, because it is a very interesting and very smart material. I was the last dean of the Faculty of Architecture in Florence, and then for 8 years, director of the new Department of Architecture. But I retired less than 2 years ago, and now I'm working and writing books. And one of them was printed some months ago is on proximity, because it is a theme that is quite interesting because it can help us not only at the large scale, but also in designing at lower scale. So I'm presenting some slides and some reflection on this theme to you, and I can start.
Okay, thank you, Professor. It's a real honor to have you here. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. Very
Okay.
honored.
I can start with the
Yes, please.
presentation. Yeah. Is it okay?
Yes.
Do you see first slide? Okay, I can start. For people which is connected also by YouTube channel, good morning. I think that Union Internationale des Architectes, I want to thank for inviting me to speak within your project today. I will try to stay within the given time frame despite the complexity of the general topic of urban regeneration. The conference is dedicated to the concept of proximity, which is taken as a guiding criterion for urban regeneration projects and is therefore understood in its physical and immaterial complexity. I ask for your understanding of whether compression makes reasoning less fluid. I would like to outline the structure of my presentation. I will begin by discussing the importance of urban regeneration, the importance of regenerating cities, both large and small, in relation to environmental, digital, and demographic transition. Then I will try to highlight the complexity and diversity of the urban ecosystem as a fundamental quality similar to natural ecosystem. Then I will define proximity by explaining the concept of proximity, its relationship to diversity, and its centrality to sustainable urban regeneration. And then I will identify policies such as sustainable mobility, biophilia, and public spaces that use proximity as an effective design criterion to initiate sustainable regeneration and reduce the inequalities among citizens. We'll conclude with some reflection on generativity and the sustainable gentrification of the cities, trying to describe how proximity promotes generativity and sustainable gentrification in cities. The pursuit of happiness is a fundamental human goal, shaped by our interaction with the tangible and intangible aspects of our environment through a sense of closeness. Happiness is a multifaceted, deeply personal state of sustained positive emotion characterized by joy, satisfaction, and general well-being. Its manifestation varies from person to person. It is influenced by positive emotion, personal fulfillment, and sense of achieving and shared moments with others. Physical and immaterial proximity can play a crucial role in promoting happiness. Being close to the others, making genuine connection and feeling involved in community decision contribute significantly to our happiness. The 2020 lockdown underscored the importance of this interaction and highlighted how important proximity is to our well-being. I'm not saying nothing new, but I can remember that cities which occupy just the 3% of the Earth land area generate the 70% of the emission that drive the ecological and climate crisis. They also face significant environmental and social vulnerabilities. Urban areas are the critical point for managing the transition to new sustainable models. These new models must prioritize spatial territorial policy making and promote adaptive approaches that deliver measurable, durable, inclusive, and equitable outcomes. The environmental and digital transition require a vision centered on sustainability, inclusion, and resilience. The involvement of all stakeholders, from local governments to large organizations, is essential to promote the sustainable well-being of citizens and to ensure that urban regeneration is consistent with these broader goals. Culture, knowledge, beliefs, skills, and relationships empower individuals and communities to understand and conserve the natural and built environment and enhance social interaction. Ecological and digital transition highlight the importance of centrality and spatiality in territorial management. The spatial dimension is crucial for understanding ecosystem and placing human activities in a specific context. Individual well-being is closely linked to the quality of the immediate environment and its ecosystem services, including water, air, soil, energy, biodiversity, cultural wealth, and environmental knowledge. This underscores the need to carefully manage and conserve these vital resources to ensure the sustainability and health of the environment and its inhabitants. Cities have expanded, often deviating from urban planning standards and exacerbating territorial, gender, and generational inequalities. These disparities are evident within cities and in wider regions, including suburbs, historic centers, and inner cities and rural territories, where basic services are often lacking, undermining fundamental rights and driving migration. Proximity holds immense potential for regenerating territories in ways that promote citizenship, health, education, training, sustainability, and resilience. Involving all stakeholders is essential to creating a healthier, more inclusive, safer, more resilient, and sustainable environment. In this sense, proximity can be used to assess the effectiveness of projects aimed at reducing inequalities, between citizens and between regions. Diversity within urban and territorial ecosystems plays a crucial role in shaping how people perceive proximity and interact with different elements of these ecosystems. Human action affect this ecosystem, while the ecosystem themselves provide essential resources and services that are crucial for human well-being. Diversity not only adds to the complexity and richness of this ecosystem, but also increases their resilience and sustainability. Implementing policies and action that conserve and enhance ecosystem diversity, together with the sustainable management of natural resources, is essential to ensure a better future for human communities and the environment. For example, investing in the development of accessible public spaces, conserving biodiversity and promoting cultural diversity are strategies that bring significant benefits. Urban complexity provides insight into the organizational information in an area over time. And information can be a way for measuring the complexity of an ecosystem. This organization arises from a variety of sources, including the economic activities of business and the self-employed, as well as institutional association activities, all of which contribute to urban diversity. The Urban Diversity Index for an area increases with the variety and number of activities, structures, associations, and institutions, and their distinctiveness from each other. An index is crucial for identifying the diversity and mix of urban uses and functions. After this overview, we can define proximity. I propose that proximity expresses the subjective relationship, both individual and collective, with the complexity and diversity of the urban ecosystem. It is expressed through physical and virtual access to places, spaces, activities, and relationships, as well as a personal sense of trust in people, places, nature, and intangible heritage. According to this definition, proximity serves as a key principle to enhance accessibility, equity, and public participation in sustainable development processes. While not explicitly mentioned in the 2030 agenda, proximity underpins several goals and targets that advocate the creation of communities with close access to services, opportunities, and infrastructure, highlighting the importance of proximity in a variety of contexts and goals, as Sustainable Development Goal 9, 11, 17 can make explicit. Local communities close to essential services, infrastructure, and opportunities contribute to the inclusivity, resilience, and sustainability of cities and human settlement. In addition, proximity fosters collaboration between different stakeholders and encourages the formation of a local network and partnership, which are essential for implementing sustainable solutions. The right of proximity. Article 3 of the Italian Constitution enshrines the principle of equality No, I think also other constitution can do it, and non-discrimination, setting a basic standard for the interpretation of fundamental rights and freedoms. Article 3. All citizens have the same social dignity and are equal before the law without any distinction based on sex, race, language, religion, political opinion, or personal and social condition. The right to proximity extends the principle of equality and the right to a decent life. It emphasizes the importance of both physical and virtual proximity for social interaction and access to basic services, health, economic opportunities, education, culture, and general well-being. Although not yet formally recognized in international policy documents, the right to proximity is consistent with the principle in various policy declarations and agreements, indicating its emerging global importance. Urban proximity can be explored through various dimensions, such as physical, relational, emotional, augmented, virtual, social, practical, and knowledge ecosystem proximity. These interrelated dimensions shape people's experience within urban or territorial spaces and provide a comprehensive framework that encompasses the social, cultural, and economic environments in which human interaction takes place. This complex perspective on proximity enhances our understanding of its importance in all living environments and settlement types. Physical geographical proximity refers to the distance between individuals, socio-economic entities, technical objects, functions, and natural or artificial resources. It defines the spatial limits of interaction, taking into account the financial and time costs involved in overcoming these distances. This type of proximity is influenced by several factors, including the morphological characteristics of spaces, the network of mobility and transport infrastructure, and the economic capacity of individuals to use this infrastructure. Immaterial proximity describes how individuals or socioeconomic entities are close to each other in terms of relationship, interaction, communication, participation, and affiliation that transcend physical distance. This form of proximity is closely linked to the organization of the human activities, socioeconomic structure, and the links between individuals and within social, economic, and cultural networks, as well as their interaction with the natural and cultural environment. It goes beyond mere spatial proximity and emphasizes the dynamic of interaction, cooperation, and exchange between actors within a specific territorial context. The interaction between the different dimensions of proximity are complex and dynamic. Strong physical proximity can facilitate social interaction and relationship with building, contributing to emotional and social proximity. Similarly, virtual proximity can extend physical and relational proximity, enabling remote interaction and sharing of emotional experience. Social proximity can influence practical proximity, as proximity between different economic activities can encourage collaboration and innovation. Beyond its physical geographical aspects, the concept of the 15 minutes city does not fully capture the immaterial dimension of proximity. These include the ways in which individuals or socio-economic entities are close to each other in terms of relationship, interaction, communication, participation, affiliation, feelings, and beliefs, regardless of physical distance. The material dimension of proximity is linked to the organization of human activities, strongly related. Encouraging the growth of diversity and proximity promotes new productive capacities and helps to reduce gender, generational, and territorial inequalities. It lays the foundation for a more sustainable society, where diverse communities within these territories can thrive and actively contribute to the environmental and digital transition, as well as adapt to ongoing climate changes. The concept of proximity is an integral part of the European Union Green Deal and also of the new European Bauhaus and urban generation policies in local sustainability plans. The new European Bauhaus promotes the creation of spaces that are in harmony with the environment, fostering relational and emotional proximity to the urban ecosystem. The Green Deal, European Green Deal, promotes sustainable mobility, reducing emission and improving air quality, thereby increasing physical proximity between people and places of interest. I believe that the concept of proximity can be a guiding criterion for the main action of urban regeneration, such as spatial planning. Urban plans can move away from zoning models towards mixed land use, creating spaces where living, working, and leisure activities are closer together. This promotes both physical and social proximity and reduces the need to travel, but also as social inclusion. Plans should improve accessibility by removing physical and social barriers to encourage interaction between different communities and create social proximity. Or using local resources. Municipalities should enhance the use of local materials in construction and maintenance, promoting sustainability and a closer connection between the city and its natural environment. Or cultural and urban identity. Valuing the city's culture and history in planning promotes intangible proximity, connects people to their heritage, and strengthens their sense of belonging to the community. We can see that proximity can be crucial in urban design and sustainability strategies, improving citizens' quality of life, building cohesive communities, and promoting harmony between people and their urban environment, in line with the UN Agenda 2030. Dealing with the issue of mobility, I would like to recall the contribution of Jane Jacobs, which I think is particularly interesting today, drawing attention to the relational character of the street. In Jane Jacobs' evolutionary approach, streets are central. She famously described the street as the decor of a sidewalk ballet, highlighting its role in providing safety, social cohesion, and economic development. Everyday action, such as taking out the rubbish, become spectacular events in this context. For Jane Jacobs, this network of a tenuous relationship forms the city social capital, which thrives on urban, economic, and spatial diversity. In diverse urban areas, different suppliers and buyers allow entrepreneurs to share their services, space, and machinery, benefiting from a diverse range of offering and the exchange of knowledge and expertise. A sustainable urban mobility plan should put the quality of street at the center. Street, as Jane Jacobs noted, are the generative element or urban vitality and the elective sites of the democracy. She called it street democracy. Streets become democratic by welcoming and expressing diversity, accommodating multiple uses and ensuring freedom of access, movement, and enjoyment. They encourage self-expression and foster social encounters and capital by reflecting the history, social, and economic diversity of the neighborhood and the city. Despite it is a plan of mobility plan of Barcelona. Despite its reductionism, the slogan "The City of the 15 Minutes" communicates how user-centered mobility is essential to achieve a state of proximity in cities and territories. Proximity cannot, of course, ignore the physical and functional proximity of urban elements, such as housing, jobs, services, infrastructure, and green spaces. When these elements are organized to be accessible on foot, walkability, or by active mobility modes, bicycle, electric bicycle, and scooters, significant improvement in sustainability mobility can be promoted. If we adopt a proximity criterion for sustainable mobility management, we must act at different levels, which together allow significant results to be achieved, as various realized experience can confirm, such as the experience of the Barcelona Mobility Plan. In this kind of planning, but also in all urban planning, in planning based on proximity and diversity of the urban ecosystem, a hierarchical planning approach becomes essential. Hierarchical planning is essential for reorganizing a complex urban ecosystem based on proximity for the following themes, such as smart zoning, promotes the intelligent decomposition of urban areas, positioning functional activities to maximize proximity, or compact structure, organize the city into a compact hierarchical structure which integrates spatial and functional units, or sustainable mobility, promotes a sustainable urban mobility network at different scales, or accessibility and connectivity, aims to improve accessibility and connectivity through networks of roads, streets, cycleways, footpaths, and public transport. Or community involvement, encourage active community participation in the definition of plans and policies. Hierarchical planning allow also adaptable management. In other words, allows the flexible management of the urban ecosystem. Another question, the naturality. The biological and social diversity of the urban ecosystem and proximity are crucial for understanding, designing, and evaluating projects that will guide our cities, territories, and communities through ecological and digital transition. For example, Proximity and biophilia are closely related concepts that refer to the innate human connection to the natural world. Proximity refers also to the physical and virtual closeness between people and nature, while biophilia refers to the emotional and cognitive affinity people feel towards nature. Proximity allows for direct experiences and connection with a natural environment, while biophilia drives the desire for physical and emotional closeness with nature. Both are essential for human well-being, environmental sustainability, and conservation of the ecosystems. The main contribution of proximity to equitable green planning is its focus on the spatial dimension and the distributive aspect of intervention. While plants and green spaces provide ecosystem benefits, urban quality and health depend directly on proximity and exposure to them. Achieving widespread benefits require an equitable distribution of plants, parks, and green spaces, as well as strategies to address inequalities between urban areas. The introduction or redevelopment of green spaces can lead to increased rental costs, privatization, and displacement of residents in favor of more affluent users. The design and regulation of green spaces can either accelerate or mitigate these dynamics. For example, strict rules of use and the street aesthetic can exclude the local community and attract a particular section of the population. So we can see that the proximity and ecosystem complexity management are closely linked, as the physical and virtual proximity of people to the urban natural environment can affect their ability to understand, manage, and adapt to ecological complexity. Proximity can improve territorial governance by encouraging active citizens' participation, cooperation between different stakeholders, and the creation of a local cooperation network. Territorial management is more effective when decisions are taken close to the communities concerned, taking into account local specificities, stakeholders' needs, and socio-ecological dynamics. So, naturalization is crucial for the global vision of a sustainable city addressing the environmental and climate crisis. However, the transition to greener and more sustainable urban environments present challenges where the concept of proximity offers a useful perspective. Emphasizing the environmental benefits of greenery highlights its compensatory potential, but the association between greenery and desirability cannot obscure its complexity. We have seen that the methods of implementing naturalization can lead to inequalities. To avoid this, it is necessary to address the approach to sustainable urban requalification from the outset. In this perspective, the contribution of proximity to the definition of equitable naturalization lies in its relatability. To ensure that no part of the population is excluded from this relationship, green spaces must be designed as places for spontaneous interaction and encounter between different groups, accommodating different modes of use and cultural appropriation, and different identity practices. The potential for equity in green planning lies in this dual articulation of proximity, accessibility and spatial proximity alongside ease of the relationship. In this scenario, the concept of proximity stands out for its semantic richness. Urban heritage proximity is crucial for defining urban policies of environmental and social transition aimed at creating an inclusive public city. This city must provide social, cultural, economic, and ecosystem services based on principles of equality and guarantees of rights. Planning from urban proximity not only physically shapes the network of the public city, but also introduces the issue of the local identity and heritage. The relationship between proximity, and we are quite close to the conclusion. The relationship between proximity and generativity, as defined by the Italian economist Leonardo Becchetti, offers an interesting perspective on the link between the social and the economic dimension of the territories. Becchetti links proximity to generativity, which is the ability of territories to create added value through cooperation, sharing, and innovation. In this context, proximity refers to the physical and social closeness of people, firms, and institutions, which facilitates interaction, knowledge sharing, mutual learning, and cooperation. Proximity fosters generativity by creating a fertile environment for social networks and trust among local actors. Physical closeness allows for face-to-face meeting, informal exchanges of ideas, and development of closer personal and professional relationships. This direct interaction fosters synergies, the sharing of resources and expertise, and collaborative innovation. Generativity thus relies on proximity to form a community of practice, where people share knowledge, skills, and resources for the common good. Going toward the conclusion, one of the most critical effects of urban regeneration is the gentrification of the urban areas regenerated. Urban proximity and the real estate sector significantly influence each other in the context of the gentrification processes of urban regeneration projects, with both economic and social impacts. While urban areas can improve and increase in value, challenges arise in terms of social inclusion and preserving the cultural and social diversity of a neighborhood. A policy that equitably increases physical and tangible proximity can counteract some of the negative effects of gentrification and promote more inclusive and sustainable urban development. Equitable access to services and infrastructure can be improved by improving transport, expanding and improving public transport system to ensure that all neighborhoods, especially marginalized ones, are well connected to central areas and essential services as schools, hospitals, and commercial areas. Or developing public spaces, creating and maintaining accessible public spaces, such as parks and recreational areas, in different neighborhoods to promote social inclusion and community well-being. Equal access to opportunities and resources can be improved through education and training. Providing equal education and training opportunities in all neighborhoods, especially those at risk of gentrification, to improve residents' economic prospects. Or social inclusion programs, implementing programs to reduce social and economic inequalities, such as access to healthcare, childcare, and employment support. Diversity and cultural inclusion can be promoted by supporting local activities and minority business, encouraging the development of local business, and supporting ethnic and cultural minority entrepreneurs, or preserving cultural heritage, protecting and enhancing the historical and cultural heritage of neighborhoods, preserving their uniqueness and diversity. Community participation and engagement can be enhanced by participatory planning, actively involving residents in decisions about urban development and regeneration projects, ensuring that their voices and needs are heard and taken into account. In synthesis, by implementing these strategies, cities can become more inclusive and resilient, promoting equitable and sustainable urban development that takes into account the needs of all residents, not just those with greater economic resources. Toward the conclusion, my opinion is that proximity expresses the subjective relation of the individual and the community to the complexity and diversity of the urban ecosystem. Proximity can play a crucial role in driving and shaping processes of urban and territorial rebalancing and regeneration, going beyond the traditional approach of regulatory urban planning and the conventional dynamics of construction, real estate, and finance, creating more holistic and effective solutions. An approach based on strengthening proximity as a value for people requires strengthening of the diversity of the urban ecosystem, which is the main quality of an ecosystem. It therefore means setting well-being, reducing inequalities, and caring for increasing diversity as objective and criteria for measuring the results of intervention in our cities. Furthermore, the adoption of a proximity criterion requires generate a complex vision of the city and its regeneration, avoiding the negative effects of urban regeneration based on real estate criteria. It opens up a strategy of urban regeneration based on precise and deep knowledge of the city, on a citizen needs-centered approach, on the active involvement of the inhabitants, on precise and progressive planning and design. In this way, an urban regeneration project becomes a project that is built progressively, even with multiple lights intervention, like a sequence of intervention, measuring step by step the results obtained in terms of diversity, proximity, and reduction of inequalities. A project that is more inclusive, more sustainable, more beautiful, and more economical. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Professor. It's a very rich sharing on proximity. And really, after your talk, I have a much deeper understanding of proximity because in our city, we talk about 15-minute community, 15-minute distance city. But actually, your talk has given us a much wider perspective about what proximity is and how it will affect our future city planning. I have a lot of questions also, like all the substance within the proximity is very valuable for our city planning. And as you have said, we have the traditional way of urban planning, like zoning, and also development, economic development goes first, and how can really the measurement and the objective of proximity can really make a change to the existing city planning. But this is from me, the question, but I have three more colleagues to join me. And now we come to the panel discussion. And we have three more architects from the ACT program to join this discussion with Professor. And they will start with sharing their insights and also maybe questions, just like me, and to Professor. And later on, we'll invite Professor to share with us your response, to the insights, to the sharing, and also the questions. The three panelists are architect Mustafa Kamal from Malaysia. He's an urban designer and also architect technologist. Yes. And also we have architect Desponia Saraka from Greece. She's architect and also assistant professor at AUTH, Aristotle University, Thessaloniki. And also we have architect Shujal Khan from Bangladesh. He is the secretary of urbanism and environment of the Institute of Architects Bangladesh, and also assistant professor of North South University Bangladesh. So welcome our architects and panelists. So each of you will have like 5 minutes to share and your response and also your question to Professor. And may I invite Mustafa to start first? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Corinne. Thank you very much, Dr. Saverio, for a well documented and also well thought of uh, discussion points for us to ponder and also look forward. But before that, we need to look back at what we have done. Yeah, it's very interesting, especially when you was talking about proximity, and I totally agree about proximity. And right now, most of the town or cities are being planned using the archaic way of zoning, and it's a two-dimensional thing. I got a question which is very pertinent probably to some societies, but it is actually pertinent, especially where real estate and developers are concerned, because 50% of some of, especially in my country, are actually developed by what we call private developers. So my question is this: uh, the the stage has already been set by the parties that develop, and probably even by the government too, that you will probably have got social classes. Social classes means they go by the income segments: the lower income, the middle income, and also the upper income. And this tends to be the way that most societies and most cities are being built. How would you suggest to actually undo the provisions of these social classes in our current urban planning and urban design, so that the proximity is actually shared equitably for all the people that is actually going to occupy the city? That's my question. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Mm.
Just now,
Professor,
or we wait?
Professor, you can answer the question now, or you can listen to all the three panelists. Do
Yeah,
you prefer?
maybe we can listen the others.
Yes, yes, yeah. So, Mustafa, the question is how to undo the separation of social classes in our, conventional urban planning right now. Yes, and so may we have Desponia also to share with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you very much, Professor Saverio Mecca, for the incredible lecture, the expert talk. I have so many questions, as Corinne has also, but I'll try and just present some insights to contribute to this panel discussion. So I'm deeply touched by the link between healthy cities and happiness. I think that it is a great tender link as architects and urban designers and planners to discuss. And as it has been very well rendered in your lecture, it made me think about how happy, not how healthy, but how happy are our cities or the cities we live in, or what is the happiest city I could think of. How can we teach our students to design happy cities and healthy cities? So going through the thread of thinking in your lecture, the thread of thinking on healthy cities, it made me think about this line of thinking as a specific approach to architecture and urban design, presenting do's and don'ts, good practices and bad practices, highlighting concerns and constraints and underlining hierarchies about healthy cities. So going through on your very specific position about that, I underlined the idea of proximity, emotional proximity, social proximity, but also other ideas that are very close to that about closeness, compactness, relation, and all these make me think about what proximity in terms of people is, social proximity, what proximity to nature would mean in healthy and happy cities, or proximity to urban things. So based on this reference to Jane Jacobs, one idea that came to mind is this eyes to the street, an idea of proximity about how people, at least in the Mediterranean cities, are looking through their windows from private rooms to public rooms, from private spaces to public spaces. Of course, Jane Jacobs is telling a lot of things, not only that, but this is something I would like to underline because recently a student of ours in their first year doing models on cities and streets, they started doing all these models that had only walls and they had red threads like needling the facade from the window to the city carpet. And I think that this idea on proximity on this very small scale of a Mediterranean city is very, very interesting. So if I have to make a question, to pose a question, that would be, how would you think that all this line of ideas, line of thinking about healthy cities could click on traditional, on conventional, or on long tested bodies of theory, such as Jane Jacobs or others? That's from me. I hope it was not too long.
I didn't understand exactly which is the question of the posing.
How would we put together all these traditional references, such as Jane Jacobs, to this new, I would say, approach on healthy cities and happy cities? How would we place all these traditional positions to more fresh ideas, newer ideas?
So it's relationship between also the past, the
Yes.
ideas in the past, and also relate the relevance to now, the modern
Exactly.
city.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are some timeless ideas in the past that is beyond past or present and future. So professor, this is about any like traditional like theories or ideas that is still relevant to our modern time. I think that's Bonia, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And our last panelist is Shujao from Bangladesh. Yeah.
Hello, Professor. Thank you. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Hello.
you.
Yes. So it's amazing. It's amazing that you try to fuse so many disparate elements of density and accessibility, mobility into one very powerful idea of proximity. So I live in a city of so many varying densities, like you would have 100,000 people living on 40 hectares of land, and so you'd call that a slum. And so you can't get more proximity than that, probably. But in that place, people are happy. People, if you ask the people, how are you doing today, they would say that I'm fine. They'd say, like, it's a in Bangladesh, they'd say Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah means that by God's grace, I'm very happy. So it's very interesting, like the correlationship between proximity and happiness and all those things. But then again, I have recently we're thinking about doing a project called Housing for Architects. So we're going to ask the government for some land, and we're thinking, and I assigned that project to my students in the design studio. So it was very interesting. Like the older generation of architects, they didn't want to live in close proximity in that sense, but the younger ones, they wanted to. So there's a shift in things. And the other thing is that I'd like to think that I see is that people's lives are extremely nomadic now. People don't settle for more than 10 years or 5 years in a particular neighborhood or job. So the sense of belonging is belonging to a particular place or neighborhood or a city. That is also very much shifting. That's the second thing. And the third thing is that it's close to the third thing is that I've been in Dhaka for about 40 years. And I feel that the city, as I used to feel close to the city, isn't true for the next generation. They don't feel that close to the city for many reasons. But I would say that people, maybe because people are super mobile now, the people are super global and super nomadic. No one wants to really stick around to a certain city as I would want to, being, sort of the older generation now, or the middle-aged generation now. So I was just wondering how all these, the human factors of mobility and generation change, and, there's a class issue, there's a necessity issue. Like, I would say that when we are becoming richer, the idea to live in proximity, in close proximity with our neighbors, perhaps it gets less. You'd want to have a sort of more exclusive life. You'd like to probably choose your city, choose your people, choose your society, if you would want to. I don't know. I'm just sort of, it's a sort of random. But thank you for triggering all these thoughts, Professor. I'd like to hear from you.
Sounds
Thanks.
like, Joe, your question is about this subjective definition of proximity, also
Yes.
subjective selection of proximity, and
Yes.
so Professor, our three architects have shared their, after listening to your talk, and some of the areas of questions. Of course, I'm sure there are many. Yeah, because your talk is so rich, it covers almost like everything. Yeah, I
Yeah.
pass the time to you. Yeah.
It's not easy to answer because also the definition of the proximity opens to a subjective concept. So if it is a subjective, it must change in every part of the world, in every part of every kind of our cities, and we are. I was not emphasizing the digital transition, which is changing a lot of things, our ways of living. We don't know exactly what will happen with digital transition because it is opening to to be more free for choosing where to live, not for everybody. Maybe or for part of the people, all the people not related or related to or working with in new jobs or digital jobs or activities can be displayed will change their idea and their reason for choosing. And maybe we shall, I'm not sure that the future of the settlement is a urban settlement and metropolitan settlement. I'm not sure because it is a phenomenon which started 200 years ago, maybe, and I don't know if it will be the end of the process of the evolution of our cities, because our cities now are a place of inequalities,
Mm.
and the way of living are very different from people with a greater income and lower income. I think that for next future, we have to change also our way of thinking for architects, way of thinking, way of designing. We are still working as 100 years ago with more tools, more digital tools, but the design process is not changed so much. We have a net distinction between the time when we are designing and the time when the design will be built or realized. And also for urban planning, we are trained to define every detail before starting and then starting the process of the realization. I think that on next future we shall have some changes. One is the big data.
Mm.
Now we are working. We are not working with big data.
Mm.
Big data are not only the public big data, but also the individual big data. And on next future, we shall be able to have, in a very short time, immediately, the answer from the users, how they are using, how they are interacting with our project. And it will be a great change. And we'll be able to change our design process and design step by step will be more efficient that our than the traditional way of designing.
Mm.
Designing every detail before and realize, and we shall have a different way for designing. So we have the possibility of a better understanding, which is the relation between users, citizens, inhabitants, and our projects, our realization. And it is more easier to define a larger regeneration project, changing a large part of the town, sending all people away from that part of the city, and demolishing and substituting and creating a new new town where was an old town. But how much does it cost? How much does it cost, not only for building, but how much does it cost globally for all the people who are leaving that part of the cities and going to other parts, and the some many times public aids for transferring and living in new parts. I think that we shall the concept of proximity is can help us to better understand out of standards the effective relation between people and places. Because we shall have more data, effective data, saying us which is the effect of our design. So we can change our way of designing, and diversity and proximity that we can measure. They are not only a qualitative concept, but they are measurable. We can state which is the level of the diversity now, which is the level of the proximity now, and compare it and evaluate the effect of the first step of the realization. So we can have a deeper comprehension of the core of our work, which is building, creating relation between people and places, between people and spaces, which is the core, the reason of our mission. And sometimes we are saying we are deciding, and the school, the rationalism, invited us to work with standards, not better understanding and hearing the needs of the specific people, but working with the standard people for standard requirement, standard needs. And we are open, we should be open, and we should also change our way of working for better understanding the real needs, specific needs, in that time needs, and observe the effects of our design in the main quality goals, which are happiness, proximity, diversity of our environment. So the traditional approach and the lesson of Jane Jacobs or others can be more interesting and more effective now than at that time. At that time, it was more a political issues. Now, that way of thinking can be a tool for us, for architects, for designing, not realizing buildings or street, but realizing relations. And so the immaterial or intangible proximity is more important than physical geographical proximity. We need physical proximity. We need an hospital not so far. We need a school not so far from our house for letting our children to go by themselves to school. We need many things with a geographical proximity. a real physical closeness. But it is not the sense of living. It's not sufficient to be happy, to make people more happy in the towns we are managing, designing, restoring, transforming, and so on. I don't know if I was answering to your question, but this is my reflection.
Mm. Thank
You
you, Professor.
answered. Sorry,
Sorry.
you answered it in wholesome. Sorry.
Yes, Professor, you have responded in a very holistic way, and also you have present some challenges also to architects, the new way of thinking, the new way of designing, and this new way seems like we need a bigger collaboration with more stakeholders rather than architects just designing, in our small circle. And also you have directed the new direction, that is the big data will be a very important tool that helps us to be closer to our intention of building a closer relationship between people engagement, and also the ultimate goal of achieving happiness. And all these are immeasurable. So I think the biggest challenge is how to integrate this immeasurable importance into the measurable way of designing city right now. The way that we design right now is very much based on the measurable, like how many people are housed, how many housings are produced, but there is no measure on happy well-being of the environment. I think it's a great where design the future city. And I will pass the time to any questions from the audience. Let me check with um the comment received. Uh,
There are no more questions.
no more questions. So then now I pass the time to Corinne. Like after the panel discussion and also the professor's presentation, and how's your response and your conclusion? Thank you. Back to you, time, Karen.
Thanks, Corinne. Thank you very much to Professor Saverio Mecca and as well to Despoina, Suhal, and Mustafa for your thoughts and for your willingness to be here. I want to stress and to thank Professor for this broadening of the proximity idea and proximity concept, and as well for including in material proximity. I think, as you said, this is the most important proximity we have to achieve, uh, related to knowledge, to heritage, to virtual proximity, social and physical proximity as well. I think this is an important and a core thing. And as well to stress that we as architects have an important role to play in this, in the shaping of our cities and our proximity, our happiness, and the whole people and the whole planet health and well-being. So thank you very much to everyone that attended this panel and this expert talk, and we hope you will continue with our expert talks and with our UIA work program. Thank you very much, Corinne.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Corinne. Thank you, Professor, and all our panelists, and also the audience who have been with us during this talk. And I'm sure that, Professor, your presentation has been very provocative and
Yeah,
also challenging.
was
When
my intention.
and really, I'm sure your sharing will make an impact to all of us. And I'm sure that in our own cities, we meet the same challenges. And your talk has inspired us to think bigger and broader. And as architects, we have our very important duties, and also important to work with other, the city's stakeholders together, government and citizens. And I really thank Corinne, and also our panelists and our architects creating this platform. This is a platform also, as Professor said, for knowledge sharing, for collaboration, and for generating ideas and sharing within us. And I look forward to our future expert talk series. There will be more. Professor, you can join us too. We will have some more expert talks and also talks by our own architects to share with you also our endeavors, what we are really doing, in our cities. Yes, challenges and also results, fruitful results from facing these challenges. Yes. So I wish everybody a good day and a good night, and I look forward to seeing all of you in our future talks. And thank you, Professor. Thanks again.
Thanks
Thank you
all.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure
Bye.
for me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye
Have
bye.
a good day. Good night.
Have a nice
Bye.
day.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Juliana.